Hey guys, how's it going? Today I have two more rare UMPCs out of my collection to show you guys. So on the left we have the Vulcan Flipstart from 2007, and on the right we have the Open Pandora from 2012. These two are probably two of my more rare UMPCs. So probably these two plus the Onkyo DX and Toshiba Libretto W700, these are probably the rarest UMPCs and computers that I have in my collection. So I'm giving you guys a real treat, just bringing out the real rare products, right? Alright, so I'm going to go over both of these because it's been a few years since I've really shown the overview of these two. So let's leave the Open Pandora for later. We're going to show the Vulcan Flipstart first. So the Vulcan Flipstart is a pretty interesting computer. Like I said, one of the most rare UMPCs because this company, Vulcan, was started by Paul Allen, who is a co-founder of Microsoft, way back in like 2005, 2006, and then Microsoft came out with their UMPC project, Ultra Mobile Personal Computer, right? Or they had the Origami code name for it. And the Flipstart was one of the first computers that kind of came out of just having that UMPC kind of branding. And I think the Sony Vaio UX, the Onkyo Model 2, those are a few other ones that I have. But this one's probably the most rarest of them. I rarely ever see it on eBay or anywhere. And I managed to just get this one, I was lucky to find this one on eBay because I was searching for years and years to find one, and I finally found one. And they haven't really been popping up much since, so I'm glad I got this one. So this one came out in 2007, and it is the only computer that company ever released, Vulcan. So it is kind of meant to be just, when they came out with this computer, it's kind of like for business users, right? Actually, most UMPCs were for business users because they were so expensive. The first generation, right? When they came out 2006, 2007, Sony Vaio UX, Onkyo Model 2, Vulcan Flipstart, Samsung Q1, all those first generation UMPCs were meant for business users because really no one else can afford them, right? They were all around the $2,000 mark. This one I think came out around 2,000 bucks as well. And really it was meant to show just how Microsoft Windows could run on the most portable form factor possible. And they came out with a lot of really crazy unique form factors, which is why a lot of people like me still collect the first generation UMPCs, right? We just think those form factors, like the Sony Vaio UX form factor, Onkyo Model 2, this form factor is just, it's really unique, and you really don't see it on any other Windows device since, right? We haven't really seen any other equivalent Windows device since. We have, UMPCs and netbooks now, like the GPD, GPD Win, GPD Pocket, One Mix Yoga. We have all that now, but it's not exactly the same, right? When the first generation of UMPCs, in my opinion, is still the most unique and the most interesting out of the bunch. So yeah, the Flipstart, I think this might actually be a SIM card slot. So the logo actually, you can actually slide it like this. I think this might actually be for mobile broadband because I know that since this is for business users, a lot of business users like to have mobile broadband back then, since smartphones couldn't really do hotspot tethering very well back in those times. So this probably had, like, I was thinking 3G, probably like the 3G modem at the time, and then you can get it optionally, and then you could just put your SIM card in, you have mobile broadband. This screen here is actually an interesting screen. So when Windows Vista came out, this doesn't run Windows Vista, by the way, it runs Windows XP. But when Vista came out, there was this feature called Windows Sideshow. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but Sideshow was kind of this extra feature that you can have an external display, kind of show you just kind of like tidbits, kind of like notifications, stuff like that. This is similar to what smartwatches would show you these days, or an external display like on my Motorola Razr Fold. It's kind of those things that will show you that's like notifications at a glance kind of information. And back in the day, Windows Vista actually had the Sideshow feature which showed that. This predates Windows Vista. So this was like really, this is using Windows XP, and somehow it's showing external information here on this external panel. So that's pretty impressive. This is a very unique feature, is showing external information here. So actually already booted up, and I think I have a bunch of Steam games installed because I was using this as a, believe it or not, I was using this as a DOS gaming machine for a while. And here you go. So if you guys can see it well, this is actually the external display here, and you actually use the volume wheel, I think it's a volume wheel, to select it. Let's see. Oh no, you use the dedicated, there's dedicated buttons on the side to select it. So let's see if I can use that. Maybe it is the volume wheel. Okay, never mind. Yeah, I do use the volume wheel to select this information. So this is way before Windows Sideshow, any of that. You have an external panel here for information, so I can check my email, calendar, contacts, info pane, help. So contacts, close, calendar. Obviously I don't have any of this hooked up, but it's just cool to see this information on the screen, because this is like something really unique that no other laptop did or UMPC did back then, right? Have this kind of external display here, show you at a glance information like notifications and stuff like that. So yeah, by the way, how I'm navigating is I'm using this volume wheel, and then you just press it in to select something. So yeah, so it's like email help. You can use info pane to read email messages. That's really cool. Yeah, it's a really interesting feature, and just press it again to actually, is that how I go back? Yeah, press the jog dial to read, press the escape button to move back one screen. So is there a, oh, there's another escape button. Okay, so there's actually two buttons on the side here which control the info pane. This is the escape button, and then you press this in for the OK, for the confirm, right? So there's actually two buttons on the side to navigate through the info pane. Yep. So this is basically how you would read like a message on the info pane. Contacts help. Okay. So it's like, oh, I check my email. I'm such a busy business user that I don't have time to open my UMPC. So, which is actually a thing back then, because, you know, Windows boots so slow, right? You didn't have I don't think this came with an SSD. No, it was on a hard disk drive, and Windows XP booted pretty slow, so we had to, instead of booting the Windows XP, you just get at a glance information like this, right? Okay. Or just waking it up from sleep actually would take some time. So this would actually be kind of useful, right, for business users. So be like, I really need to read my email. I don't have time to wait for Windows XP to come back from sleep. So this is what you would do. So anyways, pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool stuff. You have the info pane right here. Alright, so since I already showed you guys some of the external controls, let's just go over all of those. So right here we have the indicator, status indicator lights on the front, right here. And then on the right side we have, these are media control buttons, dedicated media control buttons, I believe, for next track, previous track, and play pause. And you have, this is how I used to navigate the info pane, was using these buttons right here, which is also a volume wheel, I believe. So I think that it's also a volume wheel. But and anyways, when you have this info pane open here, that's when the computer's closed. It actually navigates the info pane, and then, like I said, you can press this in, and then it goes to, you know, that email or that calendar appointment or something. And this is an escape button, basically a back button, right? And that's really all you need. It's just you need an enter button and a back button, right, to do basic stuff like this. So that's pretty much all you need, just for reading, right? You can't really write messages or do anything. It's just basically for glancing at notifications and stuff. And then you got a headphone jack right here. And then on the left side you got nothing. On the back you have a proprietary expansion slot. This one, I don't have this, but when you buy this, there's an extra expansion port, port replicator thing that you can buy. That was very expensive. I did not get that with, actually I think I did get it with this package, but it doesn't work because this particular model, I think it doesn't, yeah, something broke inside of here, so it doesn't work with the port replicator anymore. But anyways, what the port replicator with this extra dongle would come with is Ethernet and VGA, which is basically what most computers used back then, right? You have Ethernet and you have VGA and your USB ports, and that pretty much completes your computer port connections back then. You have an AC adapter jack, and then you gotta have the USB 2 port right there. That pretty much completes the connections, right? Most people back then you need a USB headphone jack, Ethernet, VGA, maybe an SD card slot, but this one doesn't have an SD card slot. Anyways, this weighs about 1.5 pounds, so it's actually pretty heavy for the size. Not too heavy, of course, but pretty heavy for the size. And then the specs of this computer, by the way, it's backlit. You see the computer keyboard, it was backlit. So that's actually a pretty cool feature that not many computers had back then. Like ThinkPads had to use a ThinkLight, but the backlighting was actually not a standard feature for most computers back then. So the specs for this computer, It's got a 5.9-inch screen. It's kind of a weird size, but it's a 5.9-inch screen with a 1024 by 700 resolution. Again, very weird resolution for that screen. And the screen size is really weird too, but that's what it is. 30GB rotating hard drive, not an SSD. SSDs were not common back then. They were extremely expensive back then, so keep that in mind. And this computer was already expensive, even without an SSD. The CPU is a Pentium M, ultra low voltage, 1.1 gigahertz. This is actually a good thing because a lot of the UMPCs back then ran even slower processors, like Intel Atom processor, or actually the predecessor of Intel Atom, which is the Intel A110, and via the VSC7M. Those are even slower processors. So I'm actually glad they ran the Pentium M because the Pentium M is actually faster than those. The Pentium M, by the way, is kind of the predecessor to the Intel Core Solo processor. So just the Core Solo is a little bit more efficient because the newer architecture, it's a Core architecture, but essentially the Pentium M is the predecessor of the Core Solo, which means it's still pretty decent. And then it has 512 megs of RAM, which is the bottleneck for this computer, I think, because all the other UMPCs had at least 1 gig of RAM. So the Samsung Q1, you can upgrade to 2 gigs. The Bio UX, you can upgrade to, actually, you can't upgrade, but it's 1 gig, right? And the Okio Model 2, you can also max out at 1 gig. So the 512 megs was the maximum limit for this computer, so that's basically the bottleneck for this computer. I actually like this form factor and design a lot. This is a very interesting form factor. I know it's very chunky looking, but you do get a lot of stuff with it, right? Like this keyboard. This keyboard, first of all, backlit keyboard, like I said, not very common on computers back then, but you get a full backlit keyboard, a lot of interesting controls, and you get all these different input methods as well. So in my Sharp Netwalker video, I said I don't like the optical track point, and like the one Mix Yoga uses it too. I do like this one. This is the ThinkPad style, right? ThinkPad style nub. I like using this one more. But even if you don't like using this one, you have an optional touchpad as well. You have 2 different input options here. If you don't like this one, you can use this one. So that's really cool, right? Like even today with the GPD computers, the one mix computers, you don't have the 2 input options. You have to go with whatever they, choose. So the P2 Max has a touchpad, right? If you don't like the touchpad, too bad, you got to use it. Or the one mix Yoga. If you don't like the optical track point, too bad, you got to use it, right? This one you have both options here, either the track point nub for ThinkPad users or for touchpad users. You got that. Then you got a dedicated Control-Alt-Delete button, which is cool, right? Obviously it runs the Windows Task Manager. This is not a touchscreen, so it's not like some of the other. The Okio Model 2 and the Sony Vario UX were touchscreens. I think the Q1, the Samsung Q1 was too. This one is not a touchscreen. So you got left and right click buttons right here. Right? This is actually kind of common for computers that's supposed to be meant for thumb typing, which is what this computer is meant for, right? It's kind of hard to do laptop type of typing on this computer. It is basically meant for thumb typing. So again, in this case, very similar to the GPD Micro PC, right? Micro PC meant for thumb typing. The Fujitsu U820, the Sharp Netwalker, those are all meant for thumb typing. This one, same thing, thumb typing. Because the size, once you get to this kind of size, there's really, you got to do thumb typing. Like that's really the only option, right? It's hard to make a computer of this size and still, unless you have a King Jim Portabook, right, with the expanding keyboard. Unless you have something like that, you got to go with the thumb typing. All right, so yeah, Control-Alt-Delete dedicated button for that, and then the power button right here, middle. Then you got a D-pad for selection, which is kind of interesting, right? I think this is. We also have a scroll wheel as well, so we have multiple ways of selection. So this is really good. We have a lot of options here for navigation. So Windows XP, wow, it's been a long time. So we can definitely use, I thought this would be the volume, but maybe it's not the volume. Okay. Yeah, I thought it would be the volume switch, but it is actually, we have volume down here as well. We have dedicated buttons for that. So maybe, no, it is a volume, okay. Okay. Yes, I was right. So the switch on the side, not only is it used for the info pane navigation, but it's also used for the volume. So you can either set the volume up or down using the switch slider, I guess, thing. So yeah, this thing serves 2 purposes, one for the info pane navigation, one for the volume adjustment, and that's it. And then we have dedicated keys down here. some of which are very like they're proprietary to this computer basically. So like I said, the Control Alt Delete button, I've never seen that on any other computer. That's only on this one. And then this button, what is this? This is a Vulcan Flipstart dedicated control menu type button. So you press it and then this control window pops up, and then you can is it called Flipstart Navigator? Okay, that's what it's called, Flipstart Navigator. Then you can go to your calendar, mail, shortcuts and stuff like that, and maybe you can configure that. I'm not sure. But anyways, that's dedicated button for the Flipstart Navigator. I think this would be equivalent to a ThinkVantage kind of button on ThinkPads back then. Then you got a zoom button, I guess. Is this for zooming in? Oh, it is for zooming in. Yeah, I saw something pop up here. Oh, okay, never mind. It is for zooming in. Yeah, look at that. Screen zooms in. I guess this is when this computer is still relatively high resolution for back then, I guess. Maybe you have some, I don't know. Or maybe this is, yeah, if you want to have more precise control over a part of the screen, I guess you can zoom in like that. So anyways, that's what that button is for. And then you have a play pause button, stop button. We already have those buttons on the side, I believe. So this must be for some kind of media player. Alright, and in order to test out the media controls on this computer, I had to download Winamp, of course, right? I mean, we're testing audio on a computer from 2007, so we gotta have Winamp. It's only right. So we're gonna play a MP3 file here on Winamp, and we're gonna go to max volume here. Test out the speakers as well. Of course, the speaker is not going to be that good, but anyways, this is max volume. So that's what it is. And test out the media controls. Nope, doesn't look like pause is working. Stop. Next track. Previous track. Next track doesn't work. Okay. Maybe this only works with Windows Media Player, but I can't get Windows Media Player working on this computer. It doesn't think it's genuine Windows or something like that. Something weird. So that doesn't work. So there's media controls also on the side here, and I don't think those ones work either. Yeah, so there's media controls on the side, but looks like they also don't work. So I'm not really sure what's going on. Maybe this doesn't work with Winamp. Not sure. Volume looks like it works. So the mute button definitely works. So that's mute, unmute, and then this is it's just an unmute button, I guess. So yeah, mute and unmute. And unfortunately, the media controls do not seem to work. At least not on Winamp. Maybe I have to be using Windows Media Player. So that's a little bit unfortunate. Okay. Well, that kind of sucks. So apparently those media controls don't like Winamp. Anyways, this keyboard is pretty unique, right? So a lot of controls and keys that are pretty much unique to this computer, the Vulcan Flipstart. This screen, this key, I'm not sure what this really does, but it looks like it switches windows. Is that right? So it just tabs through windows. So it's kind of like the same as Alt-Tab, I guess. Tabs through your windows. Okay. So that's what this button does. And then this button, desktop, takes me to desktop, I'm guessing. Yep. So this is functionally the same as in Windows 7. In Windows 10, you have this part right here where you can always click to go back to the desktop. In Windows XP, you don't have that, right? So I guess that's why they have a dedicated button just to minimize all the windows, right? You actually don't have that feature in Windows XP. So that, I think, is actually quite useful sometimes. So I know I actually use that key in Windows 7 and Windows 10 a lot. So it's cool they added a dedicated button to just so that it works in Windows XP as well. And you have a button for switching windows so you don't have to Alt-Tab. And you also have a button for Control-Alt-Delete. So you don't have to press those buttons on here. So that's a lot of interesting keys were added to this keyboard to make it more convenient, right? Because it actually would be a pain in the ass to press Control-Alt-Delete on this computer. And then you have some secondary functions right here, wireless and contrast, brightness and stuff like that. Caps lock. This is a Windows key, it looks like. Yeah, this is just the start menu key. Okay, that's what that is. Yeah, that's pretty much it. This is a pretty good keyboard. I actually like it. So, for example, I can type something in here. So, yeah, of course you gotta type with your thumb. This is for thumb typing. But these keys are okay. They're not like the biggest keys, right? They're pretty small, rounded, and everything. It's very different from the square-shaped keys or rounded squares that a lot of the UMPCs have for thumb typing, even. But I have to say that it's not that hard to press. Still easy to find them, and because there's space around these keys, like it's a chiclet style keyboard, it's kind of easy to just hit them and not accidentally press any other key. So I actually do like this keyboard a lot, and that's why part of the reason I like this keyboard is because it's from the old generation of UMPCs, the first generation of UMPCs, it actually was the best for playing DOS games and things like that, because the control, spacebar, shift, and alt is where a lot of DOS games use these keys, and it's actually laid out very nicely on this keyboard. And the even this layout for the touchpad and the nub right here with the left and right click right here, it was a very good layout for playing old DOS games like Unreal Tournament. I think I played like Quake 3 and stuff like that here, and it actually worked, right? If you want to check that out, I do have a YouTube video playing Quake 3 and Unreal Tournament on this computer. But this was the best first generation UMPC for playing DOS games, and the keyboard is just really nice. I know the keys seem small, but it's actually pretty easy to click. It's not very hard, and it's easy to be accurate because the space around them means that it's actually you know, it's very hard. It's hard to hit the other keys accidentally, which is a problem that other UMPC keyboards have. This one doesn't have that problem. So anyways, I like this keyboard. It's a really nice keyboard, and it's really tactile feeling as well. So anyways, this is a very cool UMPC, and unfortunately very rare as well, very hard to get. So I had to do this video, show a lot of you guys what the Vulcan Flipstart is all about, because I know most of you probably have never seen one or even know of one, right? So yeah, and there's a webcam here as well. I think this will probably be a very poor resolution. I'm guessing VGA resolution, 0.3 megapixel, but there is a webcam because of course video conferencing is important for business people as well. But anyways guys, yeah, that's the Vulcan Flipstart. Definitely one of my rarest UMPCs in my collection, and one that I'll probably be keeping in my collection for a while, because this is just such a historic piece, right? You know, company founded by Paul Allen, they only made this computer. It's such a unique design. I've never seen any other keyboard like this. And you know, having this info pane here as well is pretty unique as well. So yeah, for a lot of reasons, I think the Vulcan Flipstart is a very interesting UMPC. So anyways guys, that's the Vulcan Flipstart. And next I want to move on to, yeah, this info pane is actually, I think, gonna close. Yeah, this is like the logo, I think. Oh, actually it's booting up. Okay, it's the booting up logo. It will actually automatically shut off if I don't do anything with it. Like, I can use it, but if I don't use it or anything, I think it will automatically shut off to save battery life within like a few minutes probably. Okay, let's leave it like that. Okay, next I want to show you guys the Open Pandora, which is another rare UMPC. So the Open Pandora is a little bit different. This is kind of a Kickstarter project, even though it came out before any Kickstarter. So it's kind of like a pre-Kickstarter thing. But I think this came out at a time when there wasn't many emulator devices, and this is actually mostly meant for gaming, because when you open it up, oh, looks like already powered on. Okay, so when you open it up, let's see if I remember. Okay, this is set to 110 megahertz. Okay, is this a touch screen as well? Okay, full desktop environment. Okay, when you open it up, you see that there is analog controls here for playing games. So you get 2 analog controls, and then you get a D-pad right here. You get face buttons right here, X, A, Y, B. It all looks kind of similar to people. If you guys have a GPD Win, with GPD Win 2, GPD Win Max, a GPD XD Plus, a JXD, GCW0, like any of these retro handhelds that you see nowadays on the market, like there's a ton of retro emulation gaming handhelds on the market now. But you got to remember that back in the day, right, this is before Raspberry Pi, before Kickstarter or anything like that. This actually came out pre-Kickstarter, and it was one of the first devices that was kind of geared towards retro like gaming enthusiasts and emulation enthusiasts, right? So that's kind of interesting, just from a historical perspective, right? It doesn't look too special now, but at the time it was definitely kind of special. So, okay, I think I have the Pandora 1 gigahertz model. So the CPU is actually an ARM Cortex A8 CPU running at 1 gigahertz. It's a Texas Instruments OMAP 3530, I think. So this is actually pretty interesting, because just like the Sharp Netwalker, not a lot of UMPCs back there on computers ran ARM processors, and even now, right, we're kind of discussing different computers running ARM processors, which are smartphone processors usually these days, right? These days you have the Qualcomm Snapdragon, you have a bunch of NVIDIA Tegra, right? You have a bunch of system on a chip processors that are mostly used for smartphones. But back then, you did have computers that actually ran on ARM processors too. So the Sharp Netwalker was one of them, and the which I have right here, by the way. You can compare the size as well. It's pretty much around the same size. But the Open Pandora actually as well ran the Texas Instruments. Actually, sorry, the Texas Instruments DM3730 is the model number, and ARM Cortex A8 CPU. So it is running an ARM processor as well. And the other specs of the device. Has 256 megs of RAM, and the display is a 4.3 inch 800 by 480, and it's a touchscreen. So yes, you can see you can definitely use it as a touchscreen right here. Not a very good touchscreen. It's not like a touchscreen computer these days with a convertible design and stuff, but it is a touchscreen, so it's nice to have. And like I said, there's analog controls, D-pad, face buttons right here. This is similar to what you would see on the GPD Win nowadays and other retro gaming handhelds and UMPCs. Then you have the numpad, or the number row, above the controls, which is kind of an interesting design choice. You have start button right here, select button, and a Pandora, open Pandora button, which actually just opens up the start menu. So this is kind of just like a start menu button. And yes, this runs Linux. Okay, this doesn't run Android. It runs a full-blown Linux, so you can actually use any version of Linux on here. You can run any version of Linux on this computer, but I think by default it runs a version based on Angstrom. So this is a Linux version based on Angstrom. But of course, if you ran other versions of Linux, you have to get the drivers as well. So that's something to consider. But by default, ships with Angstrom. And this keyboard is very mushy. So this is not the best keyboard on a UMPC, definitely not. This is just, yeah, a very, the keyboard just membrane just feels very slippery, and it feels very mushy. So it's definitely not one of the better netbook or UMPC keyboards I've used. Yeah. And let's see, and all right. Yep, so aside from the keyboard, just go over the externals of this device actually. So on the front here, okay, so on the front of the Pandora, you have the power switch right here. So power switch, there is no power button on the inside. Headphone jack, then you get two SD card slots. The reason why there's two is because one is actually used to load the operating system. So one is actually used to load Linux Angstrom onto the device, and the other one is just for storing games and stuff like that, whatever you want. So that's why there's two. Nothing on the left side, and nothing on the right side either, except for this is a stylus. Yes. So yeah, you need a stylus here because the touchscreen is actually a resistive touchscreen, which most computers had back then. Like this is like maybe like before the iPad came out. Most computers back then had resistive touchscreens. So anyways, you need to use a stylus with this touchscreen because it's resistive. So that's the only thing on the right side here. So on the back side here, I got left and right trigger buttons. This is related to the gaming controls, or the analog controls on the front. You also have shoulder buttons right here. Only one of each though. No secondary shoulder button. And then you got a mini USB cable right here. This is a mini HDMI, I believe. So mini HDMI for output to a TV or a display, and then a single USB 2 port and an AC adapter right there. And you have a removable battery right here. So this is the Pandora battery, just removable, just like a lot of UMPCs were back in the day. So that's cool. All right, so back to the computer. Yeah, anyways, what can I say? It's a Linux Angstrom. So if you're familiar with this flavor of Linux, then that's what it is. So see, you got all your standard Linux stuff right here. Whoops. Yeah, so file manager. Oops, there we go. File manager, upgrade Pandora, Palm OS emulator. Interesting. Did not expect that. And you got input testers. This is for the gaming controls, I guess. Alright, and Office, right? We got LibreOffice right here. So we can test out the keyboard here with LibreOffice. Alright, LibreOffice. Taking a while to boot up. I mean, it's cool that this UMPC does run full-blown Linux, but don't expect it to be super fast or anything. I do expect it to be around the same speed or at least as fast as the NetWalker, right? Alright, so yeah, let's go to File here, New text document. Just wanna alright, so alright, so I'm gonna go to alright, so new text document. Alright, so basically this is Microsoft Word, but I just want to test out the keyboard for writing. Hey, my name. Oh, we made a mistake. Okay, backspace buttons up here kind of throws me off a little bit. Alright, yep, I mean, that's that's my test writing, and then let's see what else. This is like I said, this keyboard here is very mushy, so come back here. Okay. This keyboard very mushy, so I just feel like typing on this keyboard can be kind of a pain if you're doing it for a long period of time. It's not particularly comfortable to use these keys. So it's, you know how the Vulcan Flipstart, I said the keys are very tactile, so I can actually press down on them even though the keys are small. I can at least feel them out pretty well. This one is not. This one, once you press down, it's just very, very soft and mushy. So I don't get a good feeling from typing on this keyboard like I do on the Vulcan. So definitely the keyboard on the Pandora is not very good. But that's not really what this device is meant to be doing anyways. It's meant to be for the analog controls, and yeah, that's for playing games and stuff like that. By the way, I'm not going to really show much of that in this video because I already have a video playing a lot of games on the Pandora, which I did a few years back. This video is mostly just meant for like a brief kind of overview of this system, just kind of as a refresher, right? It's not really meant to show off the gaming powers of this device. If you want that, I have a link to that video, right? You guys can check it out. But I already have that. So I got Putty. Oh, this is actually a Usenet downloader. I used to use that. Interesting. Sab NZBD. Yeah, I used to use that for downloading Usenet. Okay, YouTube downloader, YouTube player. Get Flash videos. Oh, all sorts of illicit stuff here. Nice. And Putty for tunneling. And you got a Bitcoin. Got a Bitcoin thing here too. This is like way before Bitcoin was big though, so that actually would be quite useful these days. This is like way before Bitcoin was like a thing. Alright, so I got Audacity here, Plum, which is a DLNA client, Pan Player, VLC for playing media, of course, camera. Ooh, it's a camera? I don't think it has a camera though. Document viewer, games. Okay, this is where the games come into handy. So this is all the games I already have. Installed it here, Jazz Jackrabbit 2, Ken's Labyrinth, classic, Quake 3, I think I played that before, Adventures, Angband, Minecraft, of course, Scum VM, arcade games, Streets of Rage remake, interesting, I haven't tried that yet, Materian, Blakestone, Quake, Zelda Classic, I have one just called Tong, that's my name. Interesting. Open Red Alert, StarCraft. You can play StarCraft on here. I think I have tried out StarCraft on here. Total Annihilation, Warcraft on here. There's a lot of cool games here. I just tried Blakestone. This is like one of my favorite games. Just try it out. Of course, the controls do work here. Oh, it's not Blakestone. It's Wolfenstein 3D. Interesting. Did I click Blake Stone? I'm pretty sure I clicked Blake Stone, but okay, let's go with Wolfenstein 3D. That's fine too. Okay, that's fine. Let's see how the controls work here. Oh, it is Blake Stone. That's so weird. Okay, so it is Blake Stone, but the menu is Wolfenstein 3D. That's bizarre. And this is a weird level. I don't think I've ever played this level in Blake Stone. Starts off here, huh? Interesting. Okay, so this is like use button, and then the D-pad also works. The analog controls also work, but a little bit slower. Right, you can see that the analog control is slower. D-pad's pretty fast. Okay. Anyways, I'll use D-pad, it's faster. Shoulder buttons don't do anything. Fire definitely works. Okay, interesting. Okay. Definitely playable. Oh shoot. It's going after me. Somebody's hurting me. Oh shoot, who's... oh, another guy. It's weird, this is a weird version of Blake Stone. You got like a Wolfenstein 3D menu. Oh. Someone else that died. Okay. It's an interesting level. I don't think I've ever played this level in Blake Stone. Oh, the guys. Oh shoot. Okay. This time I'm gonna stay back here. God, what the hell? Do you see that? There's a knife. There's a Wolfenstein. What? That's so weird. What is this game? It's like a custom Blake Stone game or something. It's like a mod? I think this must be a mod. I think what this is a Wolfenstein 3D game with a Blake Stone mod on top of it. Because look, down here I have the Wolfenstein 3D guy, right? I forget his name, William Blackowitz or whatever. You have his face down here, and then you have the Wolfenstein 3D kind of menu interface down here, but the skin is like a Blake Stone skin. And that's kind of interesting. And the sounds are all from Blake Stone. Well, the sounds the guys make are from Blake Stone. The music is actually from Wolfenstein 3D still. Yeah, that's very interesting. So it's a Wolfenstein 3D mod, I think. Must be, yeah. So odd. The music is from Wolfenstein 3D, the sounds are from Blake Stone, the skin is from Blake Stone, but everything else is from Wolfenstein 3D. Oh my god, so interesting. Okay, I don't think I've ever played this version of Wolfenstein 3D before, but yeah, this is Wolfenstein 3D just with a very interesting skin, because look, I have a knife. You definitely do not have this knife in Blake Stone, right? This is a Wolfenstein 3D thing. So wow, very interesting. Don't think I've ever played that. And by the way, I had to press FN and Q to get the escape, because escape is actually mapped to the secondary function of Q. So that's a little bit annoying that there's no dedicated escape key. Something else I forgot to mention as well is that there's a lot of secondary keys and functions that have been mapped. So you can see this one is like, what is this? Brightness and contrast, right? Mapped here. Caps lock, okay, actually it's not that bad. Tab is mapped here. It's just escape is mapped as a secondary. I don't like that. I think escape should have been its own key, right? It should not have been secondary key. So that's a little bit weird. Alright, let's actually try one more game, because that was pretty interesting for me to have a Blake Stone mod. And you have Duke Nukem 3D as well. Diablo as well, Daikatana. You have real Blake Stone. Is this real Blake Stone? Planet Strike. Yeah, that must be the real Blake Stone. Ken's Labyrinth is cool. I've not played this in a long time. So not only do we have games, but we also have emulators too, because this is meant to be an emulator device as well. So you got everything here: DOSBox, Commodore 64 emulator, Atari, Nintendo, of course, a PC Engine emulator, PSP emulator, Palm OS. If you want to play Palm OS games, that's there. Super Nintendo, a Jaguar. Of course, personal favorite, the GBA, and even a Virtual Boy emulator. Holy crap! Okay, and a Dreamcast emulator. That's all pretty cool. That's all there, and a MAME emulator, I think, as well. Mupin, that's an N64 one. Okay, interesting. So let's just try Visual Boy Advance. It's a classic GBA emulator. So let's see, what games do we have here? We have Super Mario Advance 4, which is basically Super Mario 3. Let's try that. Oh, okay, so that works. So yeah, we got some emulators on this device now. This is a GBA game. Super Mario 3. Oh, I noticed it's running a little bit slow. Interesting, okay. It is definitely slow. Okay. The D-pad works. Analog does not. Okay. Oh, it's definitely slow. Oh. Yeah, it's a little bit hard to play this on this device. Let me see, it's definitely slow. I mean, it works, it's just the frame rate, oh my god. It's running at like 10 FPS. The sound seems fine, the music seems fine, but the gameplay, oh man, ouch. I definitely play on my Razer Edge, sorry. I would definitely play this on my Razer phone too, or on even my NVIDIA Shield portable than this. This is pretty bad. Okay. I mean, controls work, they're just really delayed. Yeah. No. Alright, I can still beat the level. Yeah. Alright, well, the emulator works, controls work, it's just not very playable. Start button. Okay, start button works actually. Alright. Alright, let's exit this. Let's close that. Okay. Alright, let's do a terminal. That's something I usually do with Linux computers just to test out, you know, the Linux-ness and also the keyboard. So let's do basic stuff right here. It's basic Linux commands. Right, okay, those all work. Echo. Oh, okay. I think it's because these quotes don't work. Alright, well, anyways, terminals here. The keyboard, like I said, is not a very good keyboard to type on, so you definitely don't want to be doing programming on this thing. But yeah, anyways guys, this is the Open Pandora. Oh, here's the file system right here, 16 gigabyte. It's got a 16 gigabyte file. It probably does not have any built-in storage actually. I think it's actually coming from the SD cards. That's another reason why it has two. And that's pretty much the file system is actually loaded from the SD card. So, yep, anyways guys, that is the Open Pandora. A very interesting computer, powered by Angstrom, like it says. Yep, so it's, as an emulator device, it's not very good for today, for modern day uses. There's definitely better devices to be using. I personally use the Razer Phone 2 for emulator stuff, but if you want to play just games on the desktop, then the GPD Win 2, GPD Win Max, those are all better. But I have to say, for the historical value, pretty interesting device, right? It's like a Kickstarter device, way before Kickstarter, and one of the first emulation retro devices on the market. So just for the historical value, I think it's pretty interesting. Plus it runs full-blown Linux, so you can, in theory, just run any Linux application. I mean, it came with a whole bunch, right? It came with a whole bunch of games and applications already there. So it's pretty cool. So yeah, it's also incredibly small. You can see the size of it. Actually, the micro PC I said was my smallest UMPC. It's actually the Pandora. Look how small the Pandora is, right? So previously I said the micro PC was the smallest. It's not. So the NetWalker right here, Sharp NetWalker, also runs on an ARM processor, also runs Linux. And then you got micro PC right here, and then you got the Open Pandora, which also runs on ARM, also runs Linux, but it's the smallest by far out of these guys. I mean, just look at that, right? So I have to give props, Micro Mosaic, the main developer. yeah, made this thing pretty damn portable. But I have to say, it's not the best emulation device. I mean, you saw how slow Super Mario ran on this thing. For gaming and stuff, it was pretty interesting for the time because there really wasn't much else, right, on the market. So I know they're developing a successor, the Dragon Box Pyra, which I actually backed 4 years ago, but I still haven't received anything. So it's kind of a shame. I really wanted the Dragon Box Pyra to come out soon, but it doesn't look like it's going to come out for a while. It kept getting delayed because it is just like 1 or 2 guys working on it. Michael Morsnick plus some other guy. I think pretty much just those 2 guys working on it. So it's a small operation. I can understand why it takes them so long, but still, by the time you get the Dragon Box Pyra, you can probably find, like a whole bunch of GPD devices that you could use instead. So, but I do hope that the Pyra does come out because I am interested to see how that one is like. It's supposed to be just like pretty much just like the Open Pandora, but like improved in a lot of ways. By the way, there's 2 different menus that you can choose when you start up this computer. There's a full desktop environment, then you can choose the simple but flexible menu, which I can show you guys as well. Basically, this is the skin for the Open Pandora. That if you choose a simple menu, then it basically it's a skin on top of Linux, and it's a very simple skin that you can use just to essentially this is like an Android version of Linux, right? Just puts all your apps right here. So you have that, all your audio apps, audio video development, game graphics. Basically it just puts it in kind of like a Android type of layout right here. We have all your apps here instead of the full-blown desktop, but it's the same thing, right? You just have an easier way to accessing them here. So this is a simple interface. Utilities. Ooh, Python has that. Cool. And a flashlight. Alright, so yeah, this is a custom skin just only on Open Pandora, I believe. So yeah, you got options and speakers here, stereo speakers. They're not bad for a device of this type. They're not good, but it's passable. But it's better than the one on the Vulcan Flipstart or either of these ones. But yeah, that is the Vulcan Flipstart and the Open Pandora, 2 very rare, very unique UMPCs that are kind of just interesting to have for my collection, right? Because you don't really see them. And yeah, hope you guys got a good look at them in this video. So yeah, if you guys have any questions and comments about these 2 interesting computers, then let me know in the comment section below, and I'll try to answer them. And as always, thanks for watching. If you like my videos, please like them. If you love my videos, if you like to keep hearing about these kind of devices, then please subscribe. And that's it.